like you lost another one.
Oh, welcome to a special edition of Summer Showcase. I'm Michael Washington here on the Shady Sports Network, and today I got a very special guest with me, Munich Ravens head coach Kendral Ellison. Kendral, how you doing, my man? And thank you for coming on and chatting it up with me, my man.
No doubt, man. I enjoy it. It's a pleasure to be here, even though it's freezing up here in Hamburg. But hey, I'm good. I get to see your face. I get to talk a little ball, so I'm all good right now.
Yeah, I think talking ball is kind of a universal language for all of us here. Like, I think everybody, as long as you're talking ball, it could be -10 outside. It doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't matter.
It keeps it warm and it keeps it cool. So that's the most important thing.
Yeah, because it's about 38 up here and rainy. So I mean, we don't have snow yet, but it gets pretty cold up here in Maine.
Man,
So
it's cold. It's I want to say it's about maybe 1 degree Celsius and white outside, and that's not for me coming from Alabama. But I tell you that much.
I was gonna say you probably don't get a ton of snow down in Alabama, so that's probably definitely not something you're
My
used to.
first snow I saw was when I came over here and played in Poland back in 2012. So that tells you everything you need to know right there.
That must have been a nice little shock for you, huh? What's the
Of
stuff?
course, when you don't have any winter gear and you're walking around in summer shoes the whole time and you're walking through the slush and nah, I'm okay. I'm okay.
And you're probably thinking the same thing that all of us think that go through it every year. Is like, why do I do this to myself? What is this? Like, I don't like this.
Ups and downs, pros and cons, man. You just got to take the good with the bad sometimes. So I just try not to be here during the winter, but I got stuck up here this year, so that's the main
You sound like every snowbird in Maine. I'm going to go down south. That's what I'm going to do. I'm moving away from here for the winter. Obviously, first and foremost, I want to congratulate you last year on a sensational season. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on, but I just wanted to throw that out there as well because led Munich to the first playoff appearance in franchise history. You went 9-3, improved on the record from the year before, where Coach Shoup I believe, was the head coach at the time.
thing.
So big expectations last year. I think you delivered uh, for at least a year one step of probably a couple year process. But congratulations either way. That was a very successful year last year for you guys.
Nah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And when you look at everything we did do, of course, we always wish we could have did more. But we kind of achieved a lot and figured out a lot and grew a lot and was able to build the culture. That's the number one thing, being able to build our culture, being able to set our standards. So we're definitely going into this off season and those expectations are going to get higher. And then the goal is going to be higher for sure.
Yeah, and let's first start talking about the big news. Obviously, that was announced earlier today, this morning. Just so happened that the timing of this worked out perfect for us here to be able to discuss it a little bit. Um, Chad Jeffries is not going to be returning to Munich next year, but you guys have signed the Spanish Bowl champion quarterback Russell Tabor, who played at UNC, I think, underneath Howell for 1 year, and then he was there with May for a couple years. Um, how I mean, how excited are you guys about this change, and what should the expectations be from Munich Ravens fans, I guess, moving forward, or ELF fans in general, I guess?
For sure. First and foremost, just want to give Chad a huge thank you. We definitely wanted to keep Chad. Chad's been my guy. He was my guy when I first signed there, and I knew I wanted to keep him on. We wanted to build that continuity with him also. But sometimes you just start getting pulled in different directions. You have family and everything. So I wish Chad nothing but the best because where we are right now has a lot to do with what Chad was and who he was and what he was able to accomplish. But that takes nothing away. We were going through this process, understanding that your best players are going to get recruited, and you always got to have contingency plans out there. And we came across Russell, and Russell's been on the radar and been in the pipeline. And I know Sean Shelton, our sports director, came to me and he was like, "Hey, I got a guy that you should talk to." And Sean is like a quarterback whisperer. He's probably one of the best quarterbacks that's been over in Europe. And when him and Kyle told me they got a guy that they're impressed with, I said, all right, let me get on a phone call with him and check him out and do my due diligence myself. And just talking to the kid, you'll never think he's 21 years old. He definitely well beyond his years when it comes to maturation. And just talking ball. When you can just talk ball with a quarterback, and he's asking questions because he's already done research on my defense, and he's trying to already pick apart some of the things that I'm doing right there. And then just his thought process on leading a team, accountability, culture, and all these type of things. I left that call and I'm like, "Ooh, shit, we got a tough man, excuse my language,
No,
but
no, you're good. You're good.
we got a tough decision to make right here, and we'll let kind of things shape out and organically happen. But we were impressed enough to say, hey, let's get him here for the long run. Let's get a 3-year deal going. And that's unheard of for Americans over here, So it was one of those things we said, if we're going to build something, let's not keep going into every offseason thinking, hey, we have to change the most important piece to our team, which is the signal call on the quarterback. If we like this guy and he's going to be what we think he's going to be, because we're very confident in our coaching staff and being able to develop him and help him grow. And when you see the tools that he has already, and playing behind Howell, playing behind Drake May, the dude can spin the ball and he has a live arm, And so I think what sold me, he used to play safety and outside linebacker. So when he told me that, I'm like, okay, well, he has a little dog mentality in him, so I can deal with that. But I'm excited. The fans should be excited. And I know it's hard right now because Chad was a fan favorite, take nothing from him. But change isn't always bad. Change can be a good thing. The unknown can be a good thing. And one person not going to stop what we're building and where we're going.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm glad you mentioned the 3-year thing because I wanted to touch on that briefly. Like, I can't think of an A import that has signed over a 2-year deal with a team. So this must be the first time that I think maybe in league history there's a 3-year deal for an A imported quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but
I'm trying to get this brain going over here to see. I don't think I know some European guys have gotten some extended deals like Harlan Kofi and Ryan Fire, but as far as Americans, because Americans are the expendable ones, so you can always change them. And you see the quarterback carousel throughout the leagues and all this type of stuff. So nevertheless, I think we believe in this guy and we believe in us and we believe in continuity. Yeah. That's the key thing, and if we can kind of keep that continuity from the jump, but it also gives him a breath of fresh air of confidence coming into it and saying, hey, I'm their guy. I'm their guy. So let's grow into this. Let me spread my wings. And that's the number one I told him to do. Spread your wings and be who you need to be.
One of the things that I always preach over here, and Sam can attest to this, is building a brand. And it's hard to do that when you're on a 1-year base-to-base contract deals with a lot of players. And the name, the brand name is obviously the team, but it's hard to really, like you said, continuity was the word that seems to be the word that you preach as far as your team is concerned and your atmosphere and all that stuff. And culture. You need to have that culture, but you need to have the continuity to do that. And that's awesome that he got a 3-year deal. And I think that's groundbreaking for the ELF as a whole too, for other teams to look at that and kind of maybe start spinning the wheels about how they can do that as well, which I think will only benefit not just individual teams, but the league as a whole.
100%, because when there's so much change up, you never know what you're going to get from one team to the next team each year, and when you always go into this recruiting process, and it's like the wild, wild west out there because everybody's trying to shoot the biggest guns to get this guy and this guy. And sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not necessary. If you like a guy, if you want a guy, there's no reason to beat around the bush. Come into it, believe in what we're doing. Do your thing, be who you are, and if we like you, we want to keep you. That's the only way you're going to build. We're not going to go further next year if we have to replace all of our imports and a lot of our homegrowns. So we want to try to keep that continuity as much as we can, as much as it's in our control. But right. Some things will be out of our control, such as this decision with Chad.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's just the nature of the way that the league is set up at this point in time. Still being in its infancy, it hasn't really hit the ground, running per se just yet. But it's definitely, steadily improving every year and steadily getting better, which is what you want. You want steady growth from a team as well. 6'3", 210, 220.
210. Yeah, if you just look at his profile picture, he looks like a kid that's just starting to go through puberty. And then you see his body, you see his frame, and you see him move around. And when you watch him on the Spanish film, he's just towering above all those guys out
Yeah.
there. But he's a specimen. He's a specimen. But like I said, what blew me away, was his mental makeup, his maturation. And these are things, when you find a quarterback that has those things and that he checks all the boxes. I think he checked all the boxes and more, and that was the key for us.
Yeah, and it's good to have size. Quarterback, obviously, as we know, offensive line is one of the hardest positions in football to
Mhm.
find. And then you factor in injuries later in the year. Offensive lines aren't as as
Mhm.
dominant as they may have been to start off the year because certain players get hurt here and there. And
Mhm.
it's good to have a quarterback that's kind of durable in that sense. So that's awesome that he used to play safety and outside linebacker as well because
Hey,
some ton,
physicality, so
ton
we're good.
physicality for sure, no doubt. Uh, Coach, I just wanted to first and foremost, Sam here left a comment. An A import running back, Tim Whitfield, to be a great bringing the smash mouth mentality. Um,
Mhm.
a import running back seems to be kind of a thing of the past, but have you guys looked at the possibility of bringing in an A import running back of any sort, or has it crossed your organization's mind to look at that position as a possible A import spot, or no?
Down in Munich, it definitely hadn't crossed our mind. We have a stacked running back room. You got a guy in
Mm.
Tomiwa Oyewu,
Oh,
who's
well, he was
he's
awesome.
a different type of running back. I wouldn't call him a running back because he's more of a guy that can play running back, can play receiver. You can get a mixture of Kamara, Debo Samuels, Christian McCaffrey. He could hurt you in so many ways. And then you got Justin Rodney, who's a bowling ball, but the one of the most athletic guys I've seen, and he's more of the traditional running back type.
Right.
And then you got another young guy that came up from the youth programs last year, Benedict Polar, who now that really is a little bowling ball right there. Got quads bigger than my head and just a guy that just likes to go. So for us, we never thought about a running back because, like I said, as long as we can get Tommy back, we keep Justin, we keep Benedict, and we got some other young running backs that we found throughout the out and different things. And like you said, it's kind of a thing. It's not the meta over here. Over here you're going to get the quarterback, the receiver, unless you're going to find a Madre London. And I would love to see what a Madre London would do now that the league has advanced as much as it had. Because in year one, we were still trying to figure some things out, and Madre came out and did what he needed to do. But could he do that now against the Viennas, against the Munichs, and all the
Right.
people? Because in Hamburg, we wanted to play Madre that year just to kind of see how good he was. But nevertheless, I don't think it's needed because there's a stable of great European running backs over here that can get the job done.
I want to get your thoughts on something as well. It's something that I was thinking of, and I'm sure that other people probably have thought about it as well. The idea of one of the A spots not counting if it's a quarterback. You know what I mean? Because I feel like every team does an A spot for a quarterback, and
Mhm.
then it counts against the A spot because it's only four imports, right? Two on
Yeah,
offense,
yeah.
two on defense, and
Mhm.
I feel like the league might benefit if they just took it as five A spots, but the quarterback is the only like you have a quarterback specified A spot, and then two more on the offensive side. I feel like
Mhm.
I understand their reasoning for wanting to build the league in Europe and
Mhm.
bring football there, but I think it would benefit the league too, though, if they had that. What are your thoughts on that? Is that something you think could work down the stretch here in the near future, or
I'd be lying to you if I said I ever really thought about it. I've heard all these things. I've heard it from the sense in that direction. I've also heard it in the sense of, hey, let's make one American spot an offensive line. Because that's one of the
mm,
positions that you want to kind of build and grow over here. I think the European quarterbacks kind of get the short end of the stick because we have some good European quarterbacks that possibly could grow into roles, but everybody's going to bring in that American quarterback. Um, for me, man, I take the rules for what they are and I just go with them how they are. And I really don't think too much about it. if they made that rule, then we'll adjust and we'll fix it. And I like it. Don't get me wrong. And I also like it being one of the guys being the offensive line, because you can teach that position a little bit more. There are some great offensive line coaches out here, but there are some teams who don't really have that, coaching.
Right.
And if you get that American over here that can kind of help them, not saying every American is just a great football player by any means, but there is some coaching, there's some teaching, there's some expertise through experience that they've had that they can kind of give these guys, and these guys will soak it up. They will love it, So, and we just saw it, and I'm going to say Joe Thomas. We saw it in Joe Thomas, but everybody's not Joe Thomas, But we saw how those guys were able to grow and develop under Joe. And I just wish everybody had that opportunity to have guys around. So I would go more so for saying, hey, let's let every team can bring in an American offensive line. That would be my thought process right there. Because I do think there are some European quarterbacks that's coming up in the rankings that should have an opportunity. It's just hard,
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And I was going to ask about how it was working with Joe. Like that must have been a lot of fun and really awesome to see how his brain works and be able to pick at that brain, because he was such a stable he was such a stable player for so long for an organization that was really not in a good space. So how was that? That must have been a lot of fun to learn.
When I say Joe is one of the most humble guys I've ever been around, because you think a gold jacket guy walking around, he can walk around with the biggest ego in the world. And he didn't. The one thing I told everybody from day one, hey, I really don't care what you did in the past, whether it's NFL, whether it's Europe or this, you're right, you're good, it's great. But, what can you do for us right now? That's the number one thing. And Joe was one of the boys. Joe just went, hey, I think he just kind of missed being in that football environment and being one of the boys, first year coaching. So it was some stuff he wanted to learn. And, as much as I was able to help him, he was able to help me, because it was my first year as a head coach and also the defensive coordinator. So wearing two hats was something that I wasn't used to, and he kind of helped me navigate myself through that early within the season. I was able to help him kind of understand, the thin line between being one of the boys, but also being being a coach for these guys also. But when I say a big part of our success, camaraderie, culture building, it was because of Joe, because any ideas we kind of had, he was all for it. He was with it. And I'm pretty sure he helped Kyle in the offense tremendously as well.
Papa J has asked a question. We will get to it in a second, Papa J. Just hold on real close, because this is actually going to tie in with this. Coach, how was your for me, one of the questions that I always like to ask the players or any coaches that I have on is, how did you come about getting over to Europe and playing and or coaching over in that area, especially where NFL Europe was there, it was all right, and then it kind of faltered, and it's not, Europe's not really known for American football, obviously, by any means. How did it come over for you to just end up playing overseas, and then obviously ultimately leading to a head coaching position in the ELF that's trying to do what NFL Europe did in the early 2000s?
No, definitely. Honestly, I just stumbled upon it. I stumbled across it. I was actually sitting in study hall one night at school, and I'm like, all right, well, hey, my senior year is over. I'm going into the second semester to just kind of finish my college degree out, but I want to play football. And of course, everybody has NFL dreams, but being 5'10" on a good day trying to play an edge rusher, unless you're Elvis Dumerville or Dwight Freeney or somebody, it's just not happening. So for me, it was I just want to play ball. And my cousin was up in Canada. I had a few looks to possibly go up in Canada, but it was like, hey, either go to camp or, go to Europe, because one of the alumni from my school had played in Landsberg many, many years ago, back in the 80s. And he was telling me about it. And I didn't know they had football in Europe. So I didn't know much about Europe at all. The only thing we learn is what we see in the back of the history books or what wars we win. That's the only thing they teach us in school.
Yeah.
So I just was online. And I was just typing in European American football, and I ran across Euro players. And but with the platform where now it's like it's full of players, but back in the day it was just me and a few other people on Euro. But we had contact to all these different teams, and I just start writing teams, and just hey, let's send my film, let's see what happens. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I felt like that was a better opportunity for me than trying to get up in Canada and be an account body or meat market type thing. So for me, I just started writing some teams, and I made a profile, and 2 days later I had 4 or 5 teams contact me. But the season was starting before I graduated college. And I ran it across with my mom, and she was like, "Nope, you're not going. You're graduating college. Like that's the number one thing you're gonna do." So I'm like, "Golly, mama, like I'm trying to go to Europe, but you want me to grad? I didn't care about graduate right now. I'm like, listen, just send me my degree. I'm good, you know." But nevertheless, a team, JJ Fayhead, he's still over in Europe, but he took a chance on me, and he was like, "Listen, we'll play the first couple games without you, but then you need to be on a flight the day after you graduate." And I'm like, say less, I'm gonna do it. And I graduated, flew on, well, not flew, but drove down to Alabama, put all my stuff in my mom's house, and the next day I was on the flight headed over to Finland. And that's just one of those things. As an American, I had no idea. And my accent now, it's funny you asked me about my accent.
Yeah, yeah,
My
yeah.
in 2010, I really sounded like Forrest Gump and Bubba and all those people. And I'm in Finland trying to talk to these guys, and they're speaking broken English. I'm speaking Southern English, and it's just like, all right, I don't know what's going on. But I had another import there that really helped me out. Nate Lewis from Ypsilanti, Michigan. He was like my big brother. So he kind of showed me the ropes and everything. So that was kind of so to say my first taste of Europe. And for me, it was like, hey, I want to see it again. I heard Germany and Austria had the best football. So I was like, let me either go to Germany or go to Austria. And that was in 2010. And then over the years, 9.5 seasons planned, I was able to play in Finland, Poland, Germany, Czech Republic. And a lot of those times I was a coach and a player. Many of
Yeah.
those times I was the defensive coordinator in the middle linebacker. So I'm calling the plays on the field. But nevertheless, it just helped me get into coaching. And I knew I wanted to coach at some point, but I wanted to try to play until the wheels fell off, whenever that would be. And I kind of set my second home up here in Hamburg, and I was playing with this team for so many years, and I started coaching with this team. Then COVID hit, ELF hit, came
Yeah.
around, and then now we're here.
And now you're here. Look at that. Yeah. The whole time that you were talking about you landing in Finland, I was thinking about Xavier Leggett in Germany when they played in Germany over there with his South Carolina accent down there. So Papa J asked a question earlier. He said, in your opinion, what's the biggest challenge for coaches and players when it comes to changing from players to the U.S. To playing overseas? I'm going to assume that culture shock is probably or the culture change is probably one of the first things, but you can elaborate a little bit more on it than me, by all means. So what do you feel is the biggest challenge? And then I'll even take it a next step from you going from a player to a coach without
Mhm.
playing as well. What were some of the challenges that you faced there as well?
For sure. Like you said, culture, with just going into different countries, and as Americans, sometimes we get caught up in we're American, we know everything, we have everything. And then you get over here, and some people can adapt, and some people can't adapt. And I
Mm,
think adapting in every sense of the word, you have to be able to do it outside of the football field, on the football field, in the locker room. You got to be able to adapt because it's not what we grew up. What I grew up playing at 5 years old and beyond. Football is a little different in the sense of you have guys in the States, in high school, I'm playing to try to go to college. I'm playing in college to possibly try to go pros. There's always a next level you're trying to get to. Over here, these guys got day jobs. Some of these
yeah.
guys work a 8 to 5, 9 to 5. Some guys are doctors. I had a pilot on my team one day. He could only come to practice when he didn't have flights. So it's a whole different. They do it for the passion of the game, the love of the game,
Mm.
and I think that's something that I had to kind of realize because I'm like my first practice over here. It was 6 people at practice, and 3 of us were imports. And I'm just like, what are we going to do over here? But we still practice, and you have to adapt because if you can't adapt, if you're a person that's stuck in your ways and stuck in how you see things,
Mm.
then Europe is going to eat you alive in a bad way, and then you're going to get homesick. You're going to want to go home, and that's why you see some American coaches struggle when they come over here because they're used to doing it on the NCAA level, whether it's Division I or NFL or whatever the case may be, and then you get over here and your starting defensive end, who's your best player, his sister may have a wedding and he can't miss that, and then that's one of
Right.
those things. You have to be able to adjust and understand these guys. And when you can understand these guys, they'll do anything for you. They'll run through a wall for you. But we have to understand they play football for a different reason, but it's a pure passion in which they play it for, because they're not getting paid a lot to play football. And in some leagues, they don't get paid anything. They have to pay to play football. So for them, it's just more they want to soak up the knowledge like a sponge. But you have to be able to adapt and understand, okay, this is how I want to do things. This is how I see it being successful. But how can I, compromise to make sure they're having fun with it, that they're learning, that they're wanting to come to practice? Because some of our guys, even in Bavaria, drive 3 hours to practice, and that's 2 practices and then 3 hours back. And if it's not fun, if you're not understanding these guys, then they're not going to do that. So you got to be adaptable in every sense of the word, and that's culture, that's just the people, that's the football, that's everything.
Yeah, and before we get into this next question from Marco Schweizer, apologize if I messed your name up there. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the little notification. I'm going to hopefully have a bunch of interviews on here from the ELF as well. We covered the ELF here on the Shady Sports Network, so make sure you do that as well. Also, go follow Kendral Ellison and the Munich Ravens on social media as well. Make sure you're getting the full experience, because I tell you what, you will not see a more animated and passionate coach on the sidelines than Kendrell during the season. That is for sure, by any means. Marco has asked, you probably can't go into specifics as to why there was a switch at quarterback, but how do you expect the offense to change with Russ at the quarterback? What does the bring to the table that enables you to reach the next level? I think that's probably a pretty common question, probably from amongst all the ELF fans right now, especially with the change at the quarterback position, considering Chad had been there since the inception of Munich, really, because he was there in the first year as well. So we touched base a little bit on it. So why don't you go ahead and answer this to the best of your ability in this situation? So.
Definitely. No, I definitely won't go into any specifics. Like I said, that's the nature of the beast. That's the nature of Chad being a great football player. Every team in the league that needed a quarterback was going to be after him, ourselves included. And that's what we talk about, these contracts and the lengths of these contracts. When you don't have a guy under a 2-3 year deal, you run the risk every offseason of them being poached by somebody else, or whatever the case may be. So nevertheless, I don't see our offense changing any. I think, Russ gives us some things. Russ has a very live arm. If you watch his film, you can see that. I think Russ and Chad are two different characters. You talk to Russ, and he, like I said, he's very mature. You can't tell that he's a 21-year-old guy. Chad's a grown man. Chad's, his family man. He's played football. Chad's a proven veteran over here. But I think our offense is tailor-made for quarterbacks. You look at this is the same offense that Sean Sheldon, won the MVP of this league in. And then you got a Sean Sheldon is also the sports director, helping out with the quarterback coaching. Any quarterback that comes in this system is very quarterback friendly. So they're going to be successful. And Kyle does a great job of finding the strengths of what this quarterback can do and implementing that into the offense. So I don't think it'll look too different. There may be some things that we can do that Russ can do a little better, or he may not be able to do as Chad was able to do. But I think both of these guys can beat you with their arm. They can beat you with their legs, but they can also beat you with their mind. And that's the one thing we're going to be able to see with Russ right there. I think Russ is just a little bigger of a body right there, but we're not going to turn into a team that's just going to be running the quarterback all the time. That's the biggest commodity. But nevertheless, I see us being who we are. We talk continuity. We want to do what we were able to do last year, and our offense was hitting on all cylinders last year, even in that playoff game against Paris. So we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. Keep doing what we're doing, but also magnify the strengths of our players. And we got to figure out what Russ does really well and what we think he does really well, and how much he's going to pick up. How much he's going to pick up. But with Kyle and with Sean, we're very confident that he's going to be where he needs to be.
Not really much of a change in size either between Chad and maybe just a little more weight and like an
just
inch
a little
in height,
bit, exactly.
An inch in height. But overall, I mean, I think that's pretty good. I don't know if Chad played any other positions, so I don't know if maybe that's a little bit of
I
of
don't
a.
know. Chad carried himself like a linebacker sometimes.
So,
If you watch the Raiders game last year, you'll forget Chad was playing quarterback. But
this is
no,
true.
so
This is fair. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's a fair assessment for sure. Um, Coach, I wanted to ask this question, and I'm sure that as a defensive coordinator, also who does the head coaching side of things, there was a lot of I guess a lot of people would probably have pointed to your team last year on the defensive side of the ball as being maybe not up to par to what you guys were hoping to, or maybe not at the level that you were hoping with matching the offensive firepower that you guys had.
mhm.
Is there any I guess has there any adjustments that you're planning on making this year that might be able to move that up to the next level for you guys, or is it just something that it's just a matter of getting that continuity like you keep talking about because it was your first year there, just to get that culture change
Exactly.
there.
No, we come in, new head coach, new OC, new DC.
Right.
And we definitely sputtered out. We sputtered out the start on both sides of the ball. But when you look at it, you look at the final numbers, and though we our schedule was favorable in a lot of ways, we were able to
Mm.
finish with really the top defense in the league. When you look at number
Yep.
one against in the passes, number one in yards, and all these numbers right there. So statistically, it looked good and it was good. We were beat up towards the back end, and even when you look at that Paris game, we held Zach to less than 100 passing yards. It wasn't that we lost in the sense of
That's true.
bad defense. But the one thing I hate that we didn't do really well, and though we were third against the run, I'm used to being number one against the run.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
my thing right there. You got to be able to stop the run, and if we were able to stop the run against Paris, then we would have went on and played Vienna. And there were
Right.
some games against Stuttgart where we let some runs break, and that's just understanding what we're trying to do, conceptually understanding what we're doing, but then going out there and being able to do it and play freely. And I think I was asking a lot of these guys on the defensive standpoint to, hey, this is what we do, this is how we do it. And early on, there was a lot of paralysis through analysis, just overthinking, and they're out there, they're thinking so much that they're not playing fast. And eventually, we got to the point where we were able to say, okay, hey, this is what we like to do. This is our bread and butter. And you saw towards the back end when we hit our win streak, we were shutting people down. We were doing a lot of good things. But when you come in and you change a new system and understand that year one, they had a great offense,
Mm.
but not a great defense. And then you're
Yeah.
coming in and trying to teach them how to play good defense. But as always, the growth is going to be from year one to year two. That's the
Exactly.
same as game one to game two. And if you look at Hamburg, our second year under that defense, we had the best defense that ever came throughout Europe. So I expect the same thing. We're just going to keep growing. We're going to we understand what we want to do, but more importantly, they understand that you got to play with some with a tinge of violence. That's what you have to do. And then
Absolutely.
in Bavaria, but there's a lot of nice people in Bavaria. There's a lot of nice guys, but and it took some time to kind of get them. Hey, you can be nice to your girlfriend, to your mom, to your sister, but when it comes to football, you got to kind of be a dog. You got to be violent out there. And once they learn that and they accepted that, and and I learned so much from them and how to be around them the same way they learned from me. And once, they started trusting it, I started trusting in them a little bit more. That's when we started playing really good football. And it
Yeah.
just ended a little faster than we wanted to.
Hey, you know what though? I have zero doubts that you will be able to bring that team defensively, offensively to what you guys are expecting. I'm assuming that you guys are all in for a championship or bust year, or at least getting to that point in that stage. And I think they got the right head coach there, and that's not me blowing smoke by any means. I feel it with you over there in Munich, and I actually like the team too, man. I liked it when they came in and their first year or whatnot. So I think you guys are definitely on the right path for sure, without a doubt. So I just wanted to ask about it because I know you're a defensive guy, and if you're anything like me, where if I'm ahead of something, like I'm my own worst critic, then and I'm not satisfied about something, I'm trying to find ways to improve it. So I just wanted to,
Always,
you know what I
always.
mean?
Listen, until we're number one in all those rankings and we're winning the championship, I'm not going to be satisfied. And even if we do that, I'm still not going to be satisfied
Exactly.
because I know what great defense can be. And I think these guys, they're starting to understand it. They're
Yep.
starting to understand it. And for me, it's a lot of people say, "Oh, you had a great year, you had this and that." Listen, we lost in the first round of the playoffs. If you like to be average, then that's okay, But I never want to nullify those small wins. That was a
Of
good
course.
win because for us, it was actually our first year under my system, Kyle's system. So
Right.
for us, even though it was a year 2 program, it was honestly year 1, So when you look at it in that way, and you always try to find the positive out of it, we did a lot of good things. And it was crazy because me and Sean went to the championship game together, and we were sitting in the car driving up into the stadium. And I'm like, as much as I want to be here right now, we just weren't ready to be here because our
Right.
guys be so caught up in the outside things and everything that's going on. And I'm like, we're still in the process of building that culture, and it's going to take time to get there. But when we get there, it's going to be nice. So,
Yeah, no
you know,
doubt. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there,
no,
Coach. I'm
you're good. You're
sorry.
good.
I'm just saying that, like, you brought up a really good point of the fact that, might have been the second year in the organizational history, but it was really still kind of a reset again, because you went from having a coach in the first year, their system, and that whole process, to bringing you in the second year.
Mhm.
And basically it's like an infancy, new franchise like that. It's hard to just go boom boom change right off the bat and expect it, and yet you guys still found a way to build upon what Coach Shoop and his system had in there, and you guys were able to build upon it and improve it and get to a point that Munich didn't get to in the first year there, to that playoff spot. So I mean, like you said, small wins, and that's definitely something that's a huge step, and definitely raises expectations as you move forward, without a doubt.
100% and 100%, and we're only looking for more. We're looking for more. If any team goes into the season not wanting to be the champion, then hey, they're in the wrong sport. But we know what we have to do, and I think
Yep.
there is the growing pains we went through year 1, we won't have this year.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure. I'm here with head coach Kendral Ellison from the Munich Ravens here of the ELF. Coach, I want to thank you again for taking the time out and spending it with me here. I know that you probably have had a longer day than with the snow and everything than you probably wanted. By all means, I usually like to close out my interviews with giving you a 5 to 10 minute window of you being able to just shout outs, thanks to anybody. You know, say whatever it is you want to say for the next 5 to 10 minutes. To give a shout
Oh
out to your
man.
fans by any means. Yeah, I know. This is the
I-
one This is the one curveball that I think catches everybody, because this is one thing I don't say
it does.
off off camera. So, but if there is anybody, if there's anything you want to go ahead and do, the platform's yours for the next 5 to 10 minutes by all means.
Oh man, so I definitely don't have 5 to 10 minutes worth of shout outs, but I definitely want to shout out, my family. That's the main thing, because that's what keeps me grounded right there. My family back home, my family in Europe, anybody that ever supported me, I definitely want to show love to them, because if you know my journey, if you know where I've been coming from and what I've gotten to, then you understand why I am the way I am. To my guys, to the owner of Munich, Thomas, to Sean, to the Ravens organization and the players also, just for believing in me and understanding who I am, and just buying in, being all into what we're doing and how we're doing it. And right now we're in our off-season grind already. While some teams are still trying to figure out their team, we're working out 3 times a week already, grinding. And these are things that's going to help us win when the season comes around. Um, Whew, Lord.
I know, right? Yeah.
Shout out to you, man, for y'all having me on here, just being able to give me a platform to just speak and talk ball and who I am, and just following the league in general. It's a good thing. And for any Americans out there that's, kind of in limbo about what they want to do, how they want to do, this is a great opportunity for you in Europe. And you're not going to get rich doing it, but you get an opportunity to come out, see the world, open up gates for your family, network with people, but also get quality film. These are things that you got to take into account right there. And just for football fans across the world, it's crazy from a kid from Alabama to kind of see how football has taken me all these places, and being able to see things in this world that I never imagined being able to see, and just the fans that you see. And speaking of the fans, shout out to the Ravens flock. I know I can't forget you guys. When I say this is some of the craziest fans in a good way now, that I have ever been around. I've never had a beer shower in my life, but after we beat T-Royal, listen, I went into the locker room, hair smelling like Gatorade and beer, and I'm just like, Lord, I don't even like beer, but in the moment, you gotta take it. So I definitely want to get a shout out there, and just for, like I said, anybody that's supporting the Ravens, supporting the league, supporting football in general. There's a lot more football outside of the U.S., so keep tuning in, keep checking it out. There's a lot of great players, domestic and international guys. So I appreciate you, Shady Sports Network, for putting a glimpse of what we're doing on the other side of the world for a lot of people that don't know. So much love right there. And if I missed anybody, I apologize. Everybody in the chat, much love. I know you could be doing something, you could be chilling right now wherever you are. So man, I'm a blessed man. I'm a blessed man to be where I'm at. I'm a blessed man to be able to walk outside and see snow, even though I don't like it, and, just to be able to meet people that I've never been able to meet and do things I've never been able to do. So I think that's it. If I missed anybody from that, I think I put everybody out there, but I love all y'all, man.
And to think he started that off entirely saying I didn't have 5 minutes, and he still found a way to make it 5 minutes. Look at him. He knew what was up. He knew what he was doing.
That's the head coach in me. You get in that huddle and you tell him, hey, I ain't going to keep y'all too long. And then you end up keeping them 10, 20 minutes.
He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. Oh, thank you for everybody out there that watched the interview with Kendral Ellison, head coach of the Munich Ravens. I'm Michael Washington. With this Shady Sports Network, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the little dingy for the notifications. I do run a summer showcase show. It's called Summer Showcase. It covers all of the ELF. Sometimes we'll sprinkle in some other European news if it happens, but primarily we cover the ELF. I do interviews with people. I try to have a co-host. I actually had Randy Schrader was my co-host last year from the Nordic Storm, one of the part of owner now. Don't think he's going to be coming back next year with everything that's going on his plate. However, I definitely will hopefully have a co-host for next year to be able to do that. But one way or the other, I just want to thank you again, Coach, for coming out. Hopefully, we did reach out to Russ. So hopefully maybe we can get him on here as well so we can talk a little bit about what's going on with that as well. But yeah, I mean, I try to do interviews, get some players on here at any given point in time. So make sure you check that out. We are trying to shine light on the ELF by all means over here in America for you guys. So
hey, you got a fan right here, man. So I'm locked in. I'm tapped in for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate it. Make sure you follow Kendral also on social media. He probably doesn't have a super large social media presence, but make sure you check the Munich Ravens. I don't know if you do or not. I do follow you, but I don't know if you do or not.
I'm there, but
yeah.
Nah, I'm good.
More importantly, follow the Munich Ravens, though, and make sure you follow them there and the ELF as well for that sense. But that's going to do it for us here tonight. Again, Coach, thank you so much. I'm always humble when I have players and coaches on, so thank you so much for giving me your time.
No, I appreciate y'all reaching out and getting me on here.
Yeah, until then, have a good one.